Hello and welcome to YouTube Developers Live. Today we have an exciting show for you. We'll talk about gaming. Let me introduce our guests. Wayne Caro from Free Range Games. How are you doing, Wayne?
Great.
What do you do at Free Range?
I'm the director of products, and I fill in a lot of holes, do business development, coding, whatever it takes. We're quite a small development studio, and we're making all kinds of games.
Great. And Kevin Wang from Kamcord. How are you doing, Kevin?
Good. How are you?
Thank you for coming. This is your second appearance on our live show.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess the last one wasn't too bad since you decided to come back.
It's worth coming back for.
And tell us one more time, what do you do at Kamcord?
So I'm one of the co-founders, and I basically work a lot on the code and the client side SDK.
Okay, great. So you are doing some coding, and hopefully we'll get into that later on the show today. All right, great. So let's just talk a little bit about Free Range Games and gaming. And one thing that I wanted to cover today is, what does video have to do with mobile games? Like, we see more and more companies integrating video uploads into their mobile games. I wanted our audience to understand better, why you guys do that and why you see any value in it. So maybe, Wayne, starting with you, tell us more about Free Range Games. How did you guys get started, and a little bit of a history of the company, and then we'll talk about your product that we'll be featuring today.
Okay. Free Range Games started at the end of 2009. A group of guys from Activision in a studio that was around for quite a while, Shaba Games, formed Free Range Games, and started with about 20 game designers, artists, software engineers, and started working on games in Unity, specifically browser games for Facebook, trying to bring that console quality experience to a Facebook game. But then about a couple years into that, the market kind of changed, and we decided to start making mobile games, as well as continuing with some browser and PC downloadable games, but everything in Unity. The Unity engine allows us to make these games that are cross-platform. And now over half of our efforts are in mobile games. We launched several last year, and we're going to launch several more this year and continue with that. A lot of our company's background is in 3D action games. Shaba Games was a studio that worked on Tony Hawk, for example. So a lot of those guys in our company have that kind of experience. And we think that video of action sports is exciting, and video of action games is also exciting. And it's a good way to show off the 3D games that we make. So we thought about a year ago that this would be a nice concept. You and I were working on a project earlier, and then along came some startups like Kamcord, and we started working with them recently. Great.
And for those of you that might have watched a session from Google I/O 2012 about video gaming, Wayne was actually one of the presenters, so this is what he alluded to in his conversation. So you mentioned that you're working with Kamcord, and how does Kamcord fit into this project that we'll talk about?
Sure. Well, the basic idea is how do we get video off of a mobile phone and up onto YouTube? And tools or services like Kamcords allow us to do that really easy. They take care of all of the video capture and sharing capability. And we don't have to, as game designers, worry about all of the nuts and bolts that go with that and the layout of that interface. Like many other third-party services, we could just plug it right in and it's ready to go. So we wanted to get that feature. To build that would be a lot of extra effort, and it's nice that we can use a free service like this.
Cool. So without further ado, should we try to maybe take a look to see how that looks in practice? I know you brought your tablet here with a game that you guys have built and has this capability. Maybe we'll transition to a little demo.
So our game is Apple Snow. This is a snowboarding game that we made for our partner, Apple. They're an actual snowboard skiing brand, and it'll be a little bit difficult for me to play and talk at the same time. So we just basically want to get down the mountain and be able to show you guys kind of what it'll look like when we upload a video. So Apple, like I said, is an actual ski snowboarding brand. They've sponsored a lot of pro athletes that are featured in the game. And the designs for the snowboard and the skis in the game are actual product that this company sells. So you can get the look of an actual pro athlete using the Apple goods in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to make the experience as casual as possible. You notice I'm just using one finger to carve down the mountain, and the tricks are really easy to do. And when you get done with a run, you can say, write a little message, and then share this replay on YouTube.
Cool. So while this is uploading, Kevin, can you tell us a little bit more about what happened under the hood? Like what was actually happening?
Yeah. So basically, in terms of the Kamcord API and integration, there were some calls that were made basically to tell the SDK to start and stop the video capture.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of the run down the mountain, they said to start recording. We started capturing all the frames that were being basically displayed on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, after you call stop recording, and basically there's a way to show the UI, which you saw earlier, which allowed him to type a message, watch the video replay,
mm-hmm.
and share on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and via email.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, that was just all behind the scenes with a couple API calls.
Does the frame capture happen in real time while the game is playing?
Yeah, it happens in real time. It saves the video to the device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What type of overhead do you think that includes?
Most of the time it's pretty small actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For most games that we see, they're already at their max FPS, 30 or 60 FPS.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a pretty small overhead.
Great.
Yeah, I'd like to just respond to that. That's
Sure.
one of the things we're really pleased with. We tend to max out the processors on our game,
Mm-hmm.
and always are trying to get the frame rate as high as possible, and because that allows for a better 3D experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were very nervous that the frame rate would take a significant hit.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the entire game, you can't notice it as a player. And if you look on it on one of our optimizer tools, it's only a frame rate or two that we're taking hits. So it's really good. I'm really pleased with it.
Great. And the video upload has completed by now. So what happens next?
Okay, yeah. So you could go to YouTube, and the video is actually there, and we can watch my unskillful playing, one finger from the side while I'm talking. But
actually, that was a good demonstration of what you said earlier about the ease of your controls. Because one thing I like about your games, it's always very easy to actually navigate whatever it is that you're actually trying to achieve versus trying to move the device around or something like that. So I think that I'm always very pleased with how the design works. I'm sure a lot of thought goes into the touch controls and how the traditional controller capabilities are actually translated into this new world of mobile gaming. I think that's critical to building a good game.
Yeah, we do give it a lot of thought, and we tend to develop controls unique for each game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the areas that we have, I guess, a passion for. So each one of our games is different. In this particular one, we've tried to go very casual with the controls. In other games, we have much more involved, more hardcore controls, just depending on the nature of the game that we're developing.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit more about kind of the technical aspects of this work. So starting with implementation technology. So you mentioned the game is implemented in Unity?
Yes.
Okay. For people that are not familiar with Unity, can you tell us a little bit more about what does Unity do?
Yeah, Unity essentially allows you to make 3D games very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tool that is actually used for even different kinds of media beyond 3D games. Anytime you're doing a 3D simulation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's become very popular in the gaming world. If you go to any of the conferences like Game Developer Conference or E3, you can see a lot of examples now.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the mobile games on Google Play and the Apple App Store are made in Unity these
I see.
days.
Cool. And then the part that actually performs the video capture, video encoding, video upload is something that Kevin, your company, implements, right?
Yeah.
And how is that implemented?
Yeah, basically behind the scenes, we hook it in the raw OpenGL recording in the engine, so we kind of intercept a lot of rendering, do some extra work on the side to capture the frames, send it off to this as video as MP4. So that's all basically happening on a different thread. But basically the core stuff is down at the OpenGL level. We have to do a lot of management of the frames and stuff like that.
And for someone who is building a mobile game, how do they integrate the capability? Is there a library that they link with? Like, what's the actual process?
Yeah, basically for iOS, it's a very simple framework. You go to our site, sign up and download, entirely free. And basically it's very drag and drop. Basically, it's a framework you link against, and the actual integration process is very simple, actually. From the time you download it to after the actual setup, in terms of getting a test video recorded, which will take maybe 5-10 minutes.
Great.
Yeah, the API is very straightforward. Just start recording and stop recording.
And then you use the YouTube API to actually upload the video to YouTube, right?
Yes, that's right.
Are you using YouTube API V2 or V3 for that?
Right now, we're still on V2, but we're planning to upgrade V3 very soon.
Great. So one question that we typically like to ask on this show is, is there anything surprising that that you have encountered while working on this project? And is this your first game that has the video upload capability?
Yeah, that's true.
Anything that you have learned by going through this process? I know when you've always been trying to push the envelope, and you have a lot of great ideas about video gameplay and multiplayer and things like that. So I'm curious to kind of poke your brain, see what happened.
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing was just the results. We injected the Kamcord feature right in the middle of the gameplay. As you saw the demo, you finish the run, it comes up right there. I expected that we would have a lot more people actually sharing video than they did. Recently, we ran a promotional campaign and had about 180,000 new users come into the game. At the same time, we updated the game and it included Kamcord for the first time at that point. We saw about 7% of those users actually upload a video to Kamcord, and then in total across YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and email. It was about 1% or so that actually shared from that point. I guess the biggest surprise, I had a higher expectation that there'd be a lot more video sharing, because one of the prime motivators that we had to put this in from a business standpoint was the discoverability of our game. Many of the people that uploaded videos, if you go on YouTube, you look at the views, they only have a couple of views. That's fine, because people are primarily uploading for their friends to take a look at, and maybe family members. Not everybody is a PR machine, right? But I hope that there were upwards of 50,000 or more video uploads for the same time. Granted, maybe not everybody's happy with the results of the first time they're playing, and they don't want to show their scores off or their runs like I just showed. It was pretty sad. So that could be part of it. I think one thing that we can do is have a deeper integration into the game. We, like I said, just put it right into the game flow, but we didn't, and that was easy enough. But we didn't think deeper about it. Perhaps what we should do is something like when the player has a really awesome run, gets a high score or a gold medal, then pop it up at that point and say, "Hey, you did an awesome job. Why don't you share this?" To make it a little bit more special and like a reward. Yeah. And even though the numbers might not increase at that point, maybe we see a little bit more sharing. So there's things like that we could do.
Yeah. That's actually very good insight. Thank you Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Kevin? Anything on the technical front that came up during the integration?
I think in terms of the tech stuff, it was pretty straightforward. I think in terms of more the end user behavior, we saw some interesting things. We found that people tend to share a lot. So right now the options are YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and email, or they can share directly to Kamcord without any of those. We do find that any of these logins sort of have a drop off in the funnel.
Yeah.
So we tend to see more people share to just Kamcord directly without picking any of those 4 choices.
Yeah.
But people tend to like to share actually a lot through Facebook and email. Those are actually the 2 most popular. I think part of it is just the people. With email, it's they can just send an email just if you feel that they want to share it with, particularly. With Facebook, there's a lot of people on Facebook, obviously, and that's a very part of people's daily lives. I think in terms of YouTube, I think people don't necessarily recognize that they even have an account on YouTube, right? Because I'm sure many people use Gmail, but they're not necessarily aware that those are one and the same now.
Yeah.
And that login process is. Anytime you have a login box, the funnel just narrows a lot at that point. So I think just some simple things like for Facebook, with the native integration iOS 6, it's just a kind of basically they don't have to enter the credentials at all.
Yeah.
With YouTube, there's just one extra login, just cause the funnel to drop a little bit. Yeah, that's what we found.
Yeah. And are you guys using the WebView-based GTM2 auth controller for the auth flow?
Yeah. That was actually very easy to use.
Yeah.
You basically just drop it in. It takes care of all the login for you.
Yeah. So for those of you that are watching it and didn't catch that part, we do have an open source project. So for iOS applications, you can just integrate. I'll just share a link to that project. So to implement the video upload capability on Auth2 flow, it's actually quite easy to do that. And this is what Kamcord is using in order to log in the user and obtain the Auth2 permission so that the video can be uploaded on their behalf. Additionally, as Kevin mentioned, if you have a Google account, such as a Gmail account, you're actually very close to be able to upload the videos to YouTube. There is an additional step that must be performed for people that don't have a YouTube account yet. Namely, they need a YouTube channel. But that is also something that we recently made available to application developers through a WebView process. So for folks that have a Google account and they don't have a YouTube channel yet, we have a create channel URL, which will basically take the user through the channel creation flow and then return to a point which you can recognize in your WebView, and then close the WebView and proceed with the upload. So we're trying to make it easy, but as you said, I think this is always a hurdle whenever people have to log in yet again, because mobile is very transactional and quick, right? So one thing that I found is people have a little bit of time, they play a little bit of game, and they want to move on. They don't want to spend too much time dealing with stuff. So we really need to make it as smooth and transparent as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's perhaps also the user experience. Maybe that should be kind of something done earlier in the process. So when they register or whatever, they have an option to actually go through the auth flow where they actually have time. Because once that is done and you have the refresh token, then you can actually use it and they can upload it basically frictionlessly at any point. Yeah. Great. Anything on the API side? Any feedback about things that you think we should be implementing that we're not yet, or any kind of general API feedback?
Overall, it's been pretty easy to use. I think we're using most of the basic functionalities. I'm not sure if this is in the pipeline or you guys are working on this, but the ability to kind of manage more of the channel stuff from the API side. That's probably my only feedback.
Yeah. We don't have much of that exposed other than playlist management capabilities. Right. One thing we are doing that is relevant to this use case in API v3, and again, this is why I ask you if you're using v3, because we do have some extra features. So one thing that typically comes up in these use cases is when you upload a video, we actually transcode it to all the different formats. Right. And then that process can take a while, and it's not synchronous with the video upload. It happens asynchronously. So if the video is shared a little too early, chances are somebody who is watching it on a device that doesn't support, that is not yet supported by the transcode, will not be able to watch it.
I see.
So in API v3, we actually have this progress API, so you can actually check on the processing status and see, have all the transcode completed. So in this use case, you uploading the video will actually transcoded to H.264 WebM for different devices. And then theoretically, it should really only be shared once all the transcodes completed, because this will guarantee that whoever picks up the video from, say, social media will be able to watch it.
Right.
So this is something we have in API v3, so I highly encourage you
see,
to look at
yeah.
it. But that's something we'll be doing to make it easier. And as far as the channel management, yeah, this is good feedback, because going back to what Wayne said, I think helping the users to feature that content, then it's really gonna drive the objectives that you guys have for this type of integration. And I've seen this before. For me, it's kind of like if the tree falls in the forest, no one notices, right?
Yeah.
So if the views are very low for this content, then it's really suboptimal. And what we've seen looking at some of the larger integrations we've done with the console makers is, realistically, this is a very long tail distribution. So there's a few number of videos that have large number of views, and everything else has very reasonably small number of views. But we do need to get to the point where for mobile sharing, you will have that long tail, with the few ones being actually used to actually promote the game, some awesome accomplishments and things like that.
Yeah, I actually think to that point about making the video easier to find, Wayne sort of mentioned this before, where thinking about deeper integration, where where basically when really cool things happen, you want to expose the API, let people share. I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Some other very simple things that people who use the API can do, just to set all the tags for metadata,
Yeah.
right? And that makes it much more easy to search, stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Anything else you would like to share with us, or are you going to go back and design yet another awesome game?
Yeah, Kevin and I were just talking about that the other day. What's the next step?
Mm-hmm.
We are going to continue working on Apple Snow. We've got some good things in development there,
Mm-hmm.
so we hope to continue to expand the game and perhaps even do a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a lot of other games that we're working on. We have a shooter that it's pretty fun. It's got a lot of traction on the web. We're bringing it to mobile. Right now it's on Android. It requires wireless controllers to play it. We don't have the touch controls yet, but hopefully in a few months we're further down the road there. And we're talking about what are the possibilities for this Kamcord video recording technology, because in that particular game a session could be upwards to 20 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
How do you record and all of that? But fortunately, in a shooter, kill streaks is a great way to show off. So if we just cut around every time you get a kill for the kill streak, then naturally videos get longer and longer with more kill streaks.
Yeah.
And then we can, from those videos that are uploaded, players can easily search on, like 30 kill streaks, 50 kill streaks, and there'll be obviously fewer and fewer of those videos, but they probably will look cooler and cooler because the better, more skillful players are playing those. So it could be some exciting watching without all the rest of the stuff that's happened in the game.
Yeah, I think that you bring a very good point. I mean, we are still very early in this process. I think PC games and console games have done quite a bit in this area, and some of them have a theater mode with editor capability, slow motion capability, and so forth. Like, for example, Call of Duty does this. But we're just getting started on mobile.
Right.
And I definitely agree that if the game can signal to technology like yours some of the additional information to decide which content is actually interesting to showcase, it will be great. And it's a general use case in video. You have a lot of content, like how do you make it interesting? What do you actually cut?
Yeah.
So that's I think whoever solves that problem will be a very rich person.
Yeah.
All right, so let's transition to questions. We have a few questions from the audience. So there's one question for you, Kevin. If you're not using Unity, can you still use Kamcord?
Yeah, we support any game built on for iOS. Yeah. So if you're on Unity, we have a plugin you can download and install. Otherwise, we have a simple framework you can drag in, and we also have the docs online for how to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then related question: are there any other titles that have integrated Kamcord?
Yeah. There are a few. One is called Slingshot Racer. The Unity. I think it was one of the Unity award winners last year. A few others. We're integrating right now with Scramble with Friends. Basically doing a test integration with them. That should be out in the coming few months.
Great.
So those are the games that come to mind.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
And then another question about the discovery optimization. So the question is, what are the tips on metadata that would help with discovery and maximizing your views? Any knowledge you could share in the SEO area?
I think for that, two major things come to mind. And the first is basically we allow the user to enter a title for the video, and if they do, that'll be the title. But oftentimes users are kind of lazy; they just want to press share. Yeah. And if that's the case, we allow you to basically set the title. And so basically, after every round or level or however your game is structured, we would definitely recommend you change a title to match what happened in the video. So that makes every video title different. So when people are searching online, they can kind of see what they want to find. Maybe you got 3 stars for a certain time for a level, something like that.
So this is something that the game developer can set up in Kamcord as a part of video upload. You basically give a callback capability or configuration capability, right? So the point is just make sure that whatever happened in the game is actually reflected in the title before you invoke the upload operation.
Exactly. Yeah. But before you basically, right after you call stop recording and the video clip is ended, you can set all this information about the video, the title and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think the title is one of the very big things. There's something else to just all the tags for YouTube. We definitely recommend you change all the tags. You add your gaming and stuff like that, and you add whatever information about that video that was just recorded. That makes it a little bit different.
Great.
It makes a big difference.
All right. So one more question. I think this one is addressed at me. Is YouTube developer relations hiring? And yes, we are hiring. For more information, go to developers.google.com/jobs. Okay, so I think this is all the time we have today. Thank you very much for coming. And for those of you watching, thank you for your time. We'll see you again live on YouTube Developers Live next week. Bye.